Welcome to Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast where we talk about all of the things that I love, some of the things that I hate, and this wacky adventure that we call life. My name is Bob, I'm your host, and I'm glad you're here today for Mandalore Mania and that stupid McDonald's kiosk. Let's get started. Welcome back to today's episode. We'll be venturing to planet Mandalore in just a moment, but first, fan mail, fan mail, fan mail. No one got a perfect score in the bracket challenge. The best winners were those that got 2 right. So we're just going to go ahead and give those the winner's prize package. So if you were the people that submitted Woodford and Field of Dreams, those were the 2 most common correct answers and really the only correct answers. Check your mail. You're going to be getting a prize package. We'll get that out really soon. Consider it on its way. The bourbon bracket was the fan favorite of the 4 brackets. Fan winners that submitted the challenge, their winners were most commonly Woodford Reserve. They agreed with us there. Field of Dreams, they agreed with us there. E equals MC squared was the most often stated favorite DCI show in the bracket, and Speed Limits was the fan favorite rant. Several have also written in to say that they had not seen Frameworks, which was our DCI winner, but they are now addicted to early 2000s Cavaliers. Awesome. I love it. Early 2000s Cavaliers, maybe my favorite complete era of any drum corps, maybe ever. Some folks also wrote in to suggest some brackets for the next year, which include a DCI ballad bracket, the best DCI ballads of all time. That's really interesting. How about a reverse DCI bracket where it is our least favorite shows, and the winner of each pairing is the show that we like the least. So we would end up with the least, our most hated show of all time. First of all, I don't want to watch shows that I don't like that much. Second of all, and I know we've done like our least favorites over the years, top 5, bottom 1, but we don't want to get into the performers and the designers being least favorite all the time. So I don't know if we'll go there. Another suggestion was football movies, which is definitely possible on the list. My personal favorite suggestion for a bracket next year was a bourbon bracket, but Matt and I drink all the pairings in one sitting and make that a video episode. We'll keep those in mind, but I'm going to tell you we're not going to do that bourbon one. That would be, that was a lot of bourbon to drink all at one time, and nobody wants to see that. We will not do that. That's a waste of bourbon, in my opinion. 1, sample a night is perfect. 2 samples if you've got smaller samples. Drink responsibly. Bourbon is too expensive to drink irresponsibly, in my opinion. So, if you have another idea, send it in. Cannot guarantee you we'll even have a podcast next March. That's an entire year away. A lot changes in a year. So, we'll see, but we'll keep them on the list. Whether you are a new listener or an old friend, thank you for listening. Thank you for responding. Thank you for submitting the bracket challenge. We occasionally also, we don't always talk about it. We get in, I love the show. How can I support the show? The show is great. We love this episode. We love this thing, etc., etc. And that's all great. Loving hearing the positive feedback because it's an endorphin hit. When you get a download, when you get a response, it's good stuff. How can I support the show? Well, a couple of really easy answers. Tell your friends, share about us on Facebook, subscribe on our YouTube channel. Word of mouth, tell your friends. More listeners is more fun. If you want to financially support the show, you can use the support the show link, which is found in the show description, or you can buy some merch from our merch store at themarchingarts.com/RHS. Sure, you're going to get a great t-shirt or a great hoodie, and some of that comes back to help support the show. All donations and all income from anything in the show goes right back to support the hosting costs, new equipment, etc. You can also find us on YouTube at Robert H. Sloan RHS Music, including old episodes of the podcast, shorts, Star Wars episodes playlist, like this episode will end up in that playlist today. There's also some RHS music composition stuff in there, and if that's not your speed, you can parse that out and ignore it. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Symbols and Cynicism, a podcast. On with the show, Clone Wars Mandalore arc. Always remember, what happens on Mandalore stays on Mandalore, and that stupid McDonald's kiosk. Time to get rolling. Welcome back to Star Wars, a Star Wars episode. It has been 5 weeks since we've done a Star Wars episode, and I missed it. Did you miss it? I missed it. The interviews have been great, and those kind of took precedence for a while. The brackets, awesome, but gosh darn it, this podcast was built on Star Wars, and we're back to our roots. You know, it's funny, because when I started the podcast, it's almost been 9 months. If you've been following along that long, thank you. I was afraid when we started I wouldn't have enough music or any content, quite frankly. So I tossed in some Star Wars, and now Star Wars is getting squeezed out by the music stuff, which is great. I mean, Star Wars is always going to be there, and it's always going to be, I think, central to this podcast, but it does get pushed aside sometimes because of the relevance of a music education moment. So anyway, today on Star Wars, we're doing the Mandalore arc, which is found in Clone Wars Season 2, Episode 12, 13, and 14. We'll talk about it more. This is one of the most important arcs in this season, and maybe in all of Clone Wars, ? It's the politics of Star Wars. It has reoccurring characters, reoccurring storylines. It's a place we go to often again. It's the overall lore of the places and the things and some of the relationships of people. Enough talk, let's get into it. Enough talk. Talking is what we do. It's a podcast. Shut up, Sid. This episode opens with Obi-Wan headed to Mandalore to investigate Mandalore's role in the Council of Neutral Systems. Pause. The Council of Neutral Systems consists of over 1,500 star systems within the Galactic Senate that wanted to remain neutral in the war between the Republic and the Separatists. Remember, we're in the Clone Wars, and it's a war between the Republic and the Separatists. Their leader, the Council of Neutral Systems leader, is Duchess Satine Kryze of Mandalore. And the rumor is that she is building an army to join the Separatists. So enter Obi-Wan Kenobi to check out the situation. His mission is go to Mandalore, meet with the Duchess, see what's going on, because the rumors are that they are forming an army to join the Separatists, and that would be really bad, because if the Council of Neutral Systems joins the Separatists, that's 1,500 star systems separating themselves away from the Republic and the Galactic Senate and joining their enemy, the Separatists. Upon arrival, Prime Minister Almec assures Obi-Wan that the Duchess still values peace over even her own life, and that Mandalore's violent past is just that. It's in the past. More on Mandalore. We'll get there in a moment, so press pause there. Minister Almec also mentions that the violent warriors, once known to be common on Mandalore, have been banished to a nearby moon called Concordia. Spoiler alert, not a great idea to send your most violent warriors to a moon and then ignore them. So we have a duchess and we have a prime minister. We have sort of two ruling people. This is sort of like Britain, right? They have a king or a queen. They have a ruling monarch, and then they also have an elected prime minister. Same thing here on Mandalore. Satine Kryze is a member of a family, a clan, a house that has risen to power through natural succession. Prime Minister Almec has been elected by the people, and they rule in tandem, in cooperation, hopefully, with each other. Obi-Wan mentions, questioning Prime Minister, that he encountered a Mandalorian named Jango Fett. Remember, back to episode 2, when he was on Kamino checking out the clones, and he met Jango Fett, who is the DNA donor of the clones who are now the Republic Army. And Prime Minister denies knowing Jango. He denies Jango as a Mandalorian and claims to have no idea how he got the armor. Put a pin in that. Enter Satine, smart, strong, super snarky. She's the whole package. Basically, every conversation with her and Obi-Wan that we'll encounter is just an intelligent snark fest of banter between the two of these. And does anybody else get a hint of romantic tension between these two? I don't know. Maybe we'll see. But we'll get into all that in a minute. First, we have to back up a little bit about Mandalore, Mandalorians, armor, etc., because there's a lot of confusion over this idea. Mandalore, at its largest scope, is a system of planets known as the Mandalorian System, located in the Mandalore sector of the Outer Rim, which also contains the planet Mandalore, which is home to the Mandalorian people who often practice a religion called Mandalorian. And yes, I said all of that one time, and no, we are not trying to set the Guinness World Record for most amount of times to say Mandalorian in one podcast. Look, I don't make up the names, okay? I just distribute the information. I didn't invent any of this. In real life terms, if our solar system was called the human system, we would live on a planet called human, we are humans, and our main religion would be human. It would get very confusing, right? Well, that's kind of the case with Mandalore and Mandalorians. So let's break it down. The planet Mandalore is found in the Mandalorian system of the Outer Rim. That's the one almost farthest out. It's just inside of what we refer to as wild space. We mentioned that in an earlier podcast. And this is the home to the Mandalorian race of people. Mandalorians are primarily, not solely, from the planet Mandalore in the Mandalorian system. Got it so far? Okay. Mandalore, the planet, was once known for its ruthless warriors who wore a distinctive armor made out of a Mandalorian metal known as Beskar. We first see this type of armor in Jango Fett in Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, when Obi-Wan goes to Kamino and then Jango Fett is a part of the whole thing. Mandalorians were feared throughout the galaxy and once ruled over 2,000 additional other star systems, including often fighting Jedi with much success. They were feared throughout the galaxy. People on Mandalore or of Mandalorian descent are divided into houses, or sometimes referred to as clans, defined by their family name, such as we'll refer to House Vizsla, House Wren, House Kryze, and so forth. That's their last name. Houses tend to join forces, sort of like a Game of Thrones sort of idea, but these are not like Harry Potter houses. Mandalorian houses tended to be family-based, although you could join a clan without being related by pledging allegiance to that family. There was also a stratum of houses where more powerful houses or less powerful houses and less powerful houses would try to become friends and alliance with other houses that they believed in from either a war strategy standpoint or a political standpoint, etc. Mandalore, the planet, was once a lush planet. However, consistent war over centuries left the terrain eventually barren and ultimately unlivable. By today I mean in this episode, Mandalorians live in a very few domed cities spread across the planet so that they can control the climate, grow food, etc. The capital that we will see here and in most other episodes is Sundari, and that's where we'll spend most of our Mandalorian time. Mandalorian architecture, you will notice, is strikingly cubist, as is their style of dress, art, and other elements. Even their trees, which we see a little in this episode, have a cube-shaped leaf of clumps on the limbs. Everything is very angular, square, rectangles, etc. Currently, Mandalore is under the rule of Duchess Satine Kryze, who is a pacifist, and under her rule has turned Mandalore into a planet of neutrality and pacifism. She belongs to House Kryze, thus her name is Satine Kryze. The warrior past versus the pacifist present give a real great deal of tension to this entire story and quite frankly, Mandalore moving forward. Most non-Mandalorians find it very hard to believe, in fact, adding to the tension, that they really are pacifists. It's kind of like the bully who says, well, I'm not a bully anymore, I'm a nice guy now. You never quite believe it, right? Until they actually prove that this is the case. So there are a lot of people that do not believe in the pacifism. They think it's all a ruse. Mandalorian, the religion, is based on the mythical beliefs of their warrior culture, some of which, back in the day, would have also taken vows to never show their face. We see this in the series The Mandalorian, which takes place far in the future from the story we're talking about today. But when we saw the Mandalorian series, he said, I'm Mandalorian, I wouldn't take off my helmet. Became confusion there, like, wait a second, but we've seen Mandalorians that do. Why would he not show his face, but many others do? Well, there are cultural Mandalorians, there are also religious Mandalorians, and there are fanatical religious within the religious Mandalorians, and of course, there are also converts to the Mandalorian religion who are not cultural Mandalorians. The Mandalorian in the show, The Mandalorian, is Mandalorian religiously by choice in his religious beliefs, but was not born a Mandalorian. So he is religiously Mandalorian, but not culturally Mandalorian. Significant distinction there. Additionally, he took a vow to not take off his helmet. Not all religious Mandalorians take a vow to not show their face. This one did. Some do, some don't. Let's move on. The notable Beskar armor of the Mandalorian warrior is made of Beskar, also known as Mandalorian iron or Mandalorian steel. It's an alloy known for its high tolerance to extreme damage. It can repel a blaster and deflect a lightsaber. Basically, only a Beskar weapon could penetrate Beskar armor. Therefore, Mandalore made illegal the manufacturing of Beskar weapons. One other weapon is known to be able to defeat Beskar, but we will talk about that in 4 years or so of this podcast when we get to that point. We've seen Beskar a lot. Boba Fett's armor, Jango Fett's armor, the Mandalorian's armor, his armor is made of Beskar. As we see in the Mandalorian series, it can be melted down and reforged to the owner's liking. If you win someone's armor through defeat, you can take it to a forger and have them melt it and reforge it to your liking, whatever shape or thing that you desire, and that is how warriors add pieces to their armor. Here, Obi-Wan and Prime Minister Almec discuss Jango Fett, and Almec says he doesn't know how Jango Fett got his armor. This is either a lie or he is just completely unaware, but Jango is a cultural Mandalorian. He's not from the planet Mandalore, but he's from another planet in the system called Concord Dawn. Jango fought in the Mandalorian Civil Wars and then eventually became a bounty hunter and clone template for the clone army, as we know and as we've discussed. So Jango is a cultural and potentially religious Mandalorian. He doesn't mind showing his face, but that's not a specific requirement in the religion. You can be a religious Mandalorian without taking that particular vow. He's from a related planet called Concord Dawn. So does Almec really not know about Jango and how he got his armor? Because he would have gotten his armor because he's a Mandalorian and became a warrior. He would have come by that honesty through victories in battle. So does he not know that, or is he lying to Obi-Wan? We aren't sure. Okay. So here we go. Obi-Wan and Satine have talked. We think you're forming an army. No, I'm not, etc., etc. But we know these guys are attacking, and those aren't I don't know those people, etc. So they go on a walk, and Satine happens to mention a group called Death Watch, who idolizes the warrior ways of the past. And oh, by the way, they're located on this moon we have called Concordia. Oh, you mean the folks we banished have now organized themselves into a terrorist group? Yes, sir, they have. Splash cut to Concordia, where we meet the Death Watch leader who is plotting with Count Dooku. Their plan is to take back Mandalore, put it under the rule of Death Watch, and return it to its warrior rightful past. Let's talk about Death Watch. It's a splinter group again, banished to the moon, who then reorganizes and opposes this pacifist, or seen as weakness, current regime of Mandalore under Duchess Satine. Keep these guys in mind, they'll return throughout our story. Their current leader, as we see here, is named Pre Vizsla of Clan Vizsla, and Pre Vizsla is a major factor not only in these series of episodes, but moving forward in future episodes. As Obi-Wan and Satine walk, we witnessed some more tension between them, and eventually they witness a terrorist attack by a member who is identified as a member of Death Watch. He eventually kills himself before he can be questioned. Obi-Wan and Satine then take the dead body back to Concordia to return the body and to check things out. Obi-Wan believes Death Watch to be on Concordia. Satine thinks they're just a random terrorist group. They're nothing to worry about. Let's find out more. So we arrive, we meet Governor Pre Vizsla of Clan Vizsla, who is secretly the leader of the Death Watch, which we already know, but he's going to keep that a secret for at least a little while longer. They split apart. Obi-Wan goes to investigate while Satine keeps Pre Vizsla busy. Obi-Wan gets captured in a quick battle where we see the effectiveness of Death Watch. It only takes 2 Mandalorian Death Watch soldiers to take down a Jedi who is in a state where he knows there's about to be something going on. He's not exactly surprised. Satine goes to rescue Obi-Wan, and there's more tension between the two. Ultimately, a larger battle ensues, and Pre Vizsla is revealed to Obi-Wan and Duchess Satine as the leader of Death Watch. We see the basis of the conflict is a deep difference in ideology. Pacifism is seen as weakness, while battle is seen as strength. Science fiction, all good science fiction at its heart, past the technology, past the spaceships, past the time travel, or whatever's going on in your brand of science fiction, at its heart, is meant not only to show a possible future and possible technology, but it also reflects to us our present or our recent past. It analyzes the human condition in terms of true situations, albeit placed into fantastical worlds, and postulates what happens when certain decisions are made regarding those situations. So if you watch Star Wars sometimes, or Star Trek, or any really good sci-fi and think, wow, that seems like real life, you're not wrong. I'm not a member of there should be no politics in Star Wars, because there is politics in Star Wars, and the reason for that is because there is politics in real life, whether you like it or not. We don't talk politics on this show, but here we have a really good example of separatist versus republic, similar to Axis versus allies. The Death Watch belief in the ancient religion and warrior ways is set here as an example of the extreme behavior and willingness to go through great lengths to defend what they believe is culturally and religiously right in the face of someone who opposes that belief, and, in the case of Obi-Wan, someone who needs to stay out of it altogether. Death Watch believes in their history and their warrior ways, and Obi-Wan should stay out of it. Satine believes that pacifism is the new right way and is seeking to hold true to what she believes. This isn't about just a plot of land. This is about deep down beliefs and the lengths you will go to support and defend those beliefs. Okay, back to the battle. Pre Vizsla's weapon of choice, the darksaber. So, lore time. The darksaber. The Mandalorian versus Jedi battle goes way, way, way back. During the fall of the Old Republic, the Mandalorians stole the darksaber from the Jedi Temple. The darksaber is an ancient lightsaber originally created by a Mandalorian named Tar Vizsla. Did you get it? His last name is Vizsla, who was the first Mandalorian inducted into the Jedi Order. When you become a Jedi, as we know, you have to forsake your family Tar Vizsla left his family. He left Mandalore, he left the religion, and became a Jedi. He then created a lightsaber called, eventually, the darksaber. This all took place over 1,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. We are currently 20 years BBY, so the darksaber was created about 1,000 years prior to this episode, and it's still a part of the story. You want to talk about being able to hold a grudge? House Vizsla is upset with the Jedi because their great, add a bunch of more greats in there, left the house, forsook the family and the religion, and became a Jedi. Boy, talk about holding a grudge. As we've discussed, sabers are different colors for different reasons, and this one is black. That's why it's called the dark saber. And after Tar died, the Jedi placed it in the Jedi Temple, as they do with the lightsabers of fallen Jedi, but it was later stolen by members of House Vizsla in a war. It was then passed down from generation to generation of House Vizsla members, eventually arriving today in the hands of Pre Vizsla, as we see here. The blade is shorter than most lightsabers, and it is like a more traditional sword. Normal lightsabers are round with a smooth end. This one is flat with a pointy end and is shaped more like a traditional sword. Also, unlike lightsabers, this one connects with its wielder on a subconscious level, and it understands the intended actions of the person who wields it. It is therefore considered a more powerful lightsaber than most sabers. Furthermore, due to its history, the Mandalorians have also considered a symbol of leadership. The wielder of the darksaber was the de facto leader of the Mandalorian warriors. One can only obtain the darksaber by defeating the previous owner. Sometimes it's handed from one to another willingly, and that is generally not accepted as an official new owner. Its sound is also not like other lightsabers, more of a screech than a hum. The darksaber is a big deal. It is a powerful lightsaber, and you are the leader of the Mandalorian warriors if you possess it correctly. Obi-Wan and Satine manage to escape and get back to the main planet, and the episode ends with a little more politics where Satine reaffirms that despite what she has just witnessed, her stance on neutrality remains. Death Watch is fleeing, and Anakin shows up and is completely clueless to what just happened. End of episode. On to 13, and we find ourselves on a luxury cruise liner on our way back to Coruscant so that Duchess can meet with the Senate and express her neutrality to remain out of it, and she does not want occupation. The Republic wants to send an army to make sure that the Mandalorians, don't have an army, and her job is to assure them there's no army, we are neutral, please do not involve us in your war. Early on in the episode, Anakin and Obi-Wan are in an elevator, and Anakin asks Obi-Wan if he and Satine are close. Obi-Wan responds with a little more anger than he should and snaps, "I knew her." He knew her. Sid, stay out of it. We're going to get there, okay? Calm down. One of my favorite lines in all of Star Wars is right here when Satine refers to Obi-Wan and introduces him as, quote, the collection of half-truths and hyperbole known as Obi-Wan Kenobi, end quote. Zing. So snarky. And again, clear tension here as they banter back and forth. We spend most of this episode chasing down an onboard assassin who brought on some murder droids. So action, action, action. But the real story here is when we finally get to the bottom of the Obi-Wan and Satine saga, all thanks to Anakin. Anakin keeps digging. He keeps prodding. What about their history? Do you have some history? He asks, and Obi-Wan finally reveals that he was stationed on Mandalore for an extended mission when he was younger. He and Qui-Gon were on Mandalore for a year protecting the Duchess. So it was long enough that Qui-Gon was alive. So this is pre-Phantom Menace, but not so long ago that the Duchess was not Yet the Duchess. Now, we know she became the Duchess after the Mandalorian Civil War, so there's a brief period of time in there. We don't exactly know when it is, but the point is he is on Mandalore for a year protecting the Duchess with Qui-Gon. Anakin then mentions that sounded, quote, romantic, and Obi-Wan rolls his eyes. Smash cut, action, 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 finding the robots, finding the murder droids. Anakin keeps prodding, though, asking, so you had feelings for her? Obi-Wan admits it. He did have feelings, but he lives by the Jedi code and did his duty. Anakin knows the rules better than anybody because Obi-Wan has been drilling him into his head forever. Obi-Wan indicates that there is remorse here over choosing the code over the relationship. Quick reminder, Jedi are not to form attachments to people or things, but people in this case. So Obi-Wan, knowing that he was forming an attachment, chose to leave the attachment and remain true to the Jedi code. However, he does regret that decision. There is remorse. He says Yoda often mentions not to have attachments, but he never mentions the remorse. We're interrupted by the clones, but here's the point. We have two Jedi, Obi-Wan and Anakin. Both were, or maybe are, in love. Both handled it differently. Obi-Wan followed the Jedi code and left Satine behind, which accounts for some of her bitter snarkiness, to be perfectly honest with you, and he now regrets it. And we'll continue to see that in this episode and in the future. Anakin obviously continued his attachment, and we know how all of that turned out. Obi-Wan, while regretful, does live to an old age and is a revered Jedi at the time of his death. There is no right answer here. Ultimately, Obi-Wan was placed into exile by the job he loved when things didn't go the right way. Not exactly a great ending to your story. Anakin fell to the dark side, eventually kills his master, spoiler alert, dismembers his own son, and dies his own death, albeit with a brief redemption just prior to his death. Somewhere in there, science fiction is telling us the truth about who got the right answer. I've not lived long enough or experienced enough to know, so we'll just leave it there. Back to the action. They figure out the assassin, and while attempting to rescue Satine, Obi-Wan finds himself in an interesting position. The assassin has Satine and could kill her if he chose to. Really, he wants to kidnap her and take her back to his boss. Does he kill the assassin to save his love and thereby offending Satine by killing the assassin? Or does he let the assassin take the woman that he ultimately loves? Meanwhile, Satine could kill the assassin herself, but then that would prove her a hypocrite due to her pacifism. What is going to happen? Who betrays what they really truly feel? No problem. Anakin kills the assassin and saves both Obi-Wan and Satine from making the decision and doesn't even think twice about it. Red flag, anyone? So, is Obi-Wan in love? Yes. Does he manage to avoid attachments? Yes, sort of. For the most part, although he does hesitate to do what's right, and he seems to regret it. In this moment, he should really kill the assassin because that's the right thing, but he hesitates because of his love. So he has not completely avoided attachments. In fact, he admits that he would have left the Jedi Order if he knew they would be together. This indicates that it wasn't originally love. It was probably just a short tryst due to the intensity of the situation when he was defending her, and that neither of them really would admit that it had blossomed into anything beyond a fling at that time. Here's the real important thing about all of this, though. Doesn't this shed a new light on Revenge of the Sith, as well as other Clone Wars episodes, when we notice now that Obi-Wan knew about Anakin and Padme? Heck yes, it sheds new light. It is one thing to think about Obi-Wan as Anakin's flawless master when he tells him not to have attachments. It's another thing to be his master that has been in his shoes and, listen closely, regrets the choice he made. Let that sink in. Obi-Wan knows about Anakin and Padme, and he does not tell him to leave Padme, nor does he tell him to leave the Order despite the Jedi Code, because he, Obi-Wan, knows the pain associated with doing so. Thereby, he gives Anakin de facto blessing by staying silent. But the Clone Wars is just a kid's show, an animated kid's show. It doesn't mean anything. There's no deep meaning. Okay. Or this arc puts an entirely different spin on the Obi-Wan, Anakin, Padme sequences. Obi-Wan looks at it through the filter of a person in love who did the, quote, right Jedi thing. Anyway, back to the story. Satine arrives safely on Coruscant and end of episode, which is sort of the end of the overall arc, but sort of not, as it does continue into episode 14 through the politics of neutrality and war. But there is some espionage and lies and stuff, as well as Dooku and Pre Vizsla still plotting like what comes next. We screwed that up. It's a fine episode, but really the point of the arc has been covered. It's the love story, it's Mandalore, it's Death Watch, and it's the darksaber. We'll return to Mandalore several times throughout this series and get even more into the full depth of all of these stories, but I love Obi-Wan's parting line at the end of episode 14. Quote, "The lines between friend and foe are blurred now more than ever," end quote. So true, Obi-Wan. Man, I love Star Wars, and I love Clone Wars. Go watch some Star Wars.
That's it. No, breathe. Find your happy place.
That stupid McDonald's kiosk. Have you encountered this? I am not a McDonald's frequenter ultimately, but when I am on a road trip, I do love McDonald's coffee. I love that McDonald's generally has very clean bathrooms. Their coffee is cheap, if not also pretty good. I mean, it's drinkable, right? And it's cheaper than like Starbucks or one of those fancy places that not usually a fancy coffee person. And I am known to have a bit of a soft spot for chicken nuggets. Not for their nutritional value, not really for their, I don't know what I love. I love chicken McNuggets. I do. It's a weakness. None of that is the point. The point is this stupid kiosk. As you walk in the door, they have these touchscreen kiosks. And if you go up to the counter and say, "I'd just like a black coffee," they look at you like, "Why aren't you using the kiosk, old man? What is technology beyond your ancient ways?" Okay, so let's use the kiosk. If I walk up to the counter, though, and say, "I'd like a black coffee," and zip my credit card in and out, it's like 30 seconds and they hand me the coffee. Okay, or I can go to the kiosk and find the McCafe thing, and then you select coffee, and then you select the size, and then it says, "Do you want milk or cream or sugar?" and all of it. You got to go through all. No, just add it to my order, and then you pay, and then it asks you if you want to round up, and then you choose to round up or not round up, and then it gives you a number, and like by the time you get up there, the coffee is already waiting, which is fine, but the whole thing would take like a lot less time if you could just walk up and order a coffee. I did this the other day. I walked up and I said, "I'd like a black coffee." And she said, "The kiosk is that way." I said, "You can't just give me a black large coffee?" And she rolled her eyes and said, "Would you like cream or sugar?" I just said black coffee. I'm trying to make their life efficient. Black coffee in a cup. And then you ask me if I want cream or... No, I don't want cream or sugar. Black means no cream or sugar. Isn't that what black means? McDonald's, I love you, I hate you. I think I feel better. I do. All right, homework for the week. I know this sounds like a silly time to do this. It's March, but bear with me. Write down 5 things you have learned recently. Maybe it's simple, little things, like I learned that the Lehigh University mascot is the mountain hawk. Or I learned that my 5-year bachelor's degree at Ohio State in the 1990s cost less total than 1 year currently at a MAC or Big Ten school. Or maybe it's really big things, like I learned that life isn't fair. Or I learned who my real friends are. Or I learned the most important human characteristic you can possess is grit. Whatever it is, write down your 5 things. This is just for you. Read it slowly. Put it away, read it tomorrow. Put it away, read it the next day. 3 or 4 days in a row. And while you read it, think of how proud you are for the things you have learned and what those things have taught you. Save your list, throw it away, burn it. I don't care. Just make the list, spend some time reflecting on the list, and then go have the day that you deserve. Okay, that's the show. Make sure to leave a rating, drop a comment, or send a message on the app of your choice. You can text the show with the link at the bottom of the description. You can also support the show with that link. Check out the merch store at themarchingarts.com/RHS and our YouTube channel at Robert H. Sloan RHS Music. We hope you'll join us next week for an interview about interviewing with a real-life superintendent and parking garages. Thanks for joining me today. The theme music is Superfly, written by me, copyright RHS Music. The show logo is designed by John Suh. Our producer is my sister, Kathy. I hope you'll join us next time for more reflections and rantings on symbols and cynicism.